On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we do not need to focus all on men's basketball being horrible because we've got some football pressers to talk about. We had Drinkwitz and the assistants. They were at the podium ahead of the start of spring camp, so we got some stuff just hit on there. Nothing super crazy, but we're going to predict who we think might start along the offensive line. Kind of a way too early sort of spring camp prediction, but now we're in that season, so exciting stuff. Some storylines will start to emerge. We got some special teams battles. We on this podcast are big special teams supporters. At least Kenny and I are, with Kenny's love for long snappers. Peyton in the waiting room is shaking his head no vehemently, so he is not a special teams fan. But he's a big Eric Link guy. But anyway, we're going to talk about everything that Drink was talking about, from his NCAA 25 comment to some of the battles we might see positionally. Then we will recap the Florida game. Unfortunately, another loss for Mizzou men's basketball, so that's great. And then preview a game that Peyton, last time we talked, or one of the recent times we talked, said it's probably the Tigers' best chance to win when they take on Ole Miss at home on Saturday. So we'll talk about that. Then we had a great interview. We talked to On3's Notre Dame beat writer. You might be wondering why we talked to him. His name is Jack Soble, and in fact, he used to be with Kenny on the Mizzou football beat. He was at the NFL Combine, so he talked to some of the Mizzou guys, got quotes from them. So we got a great report from him about how some of those future Mizzou pros are. So stick around for that. That was a great interview with Jack Soble. And then we'll do quick hits. We got jerseys of the week, Sean East Mainbirds, the best things we learned, and all that fun stuff. So great show for you guys. Plenty of football to dive into. Football is back already. We needed it to be with how horrible men's basketball has been. But with that, we'll dive into it. Before we start, quick word from the sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With all the up-to-minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today to become part of the team. And remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, BELIEVE, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. March Madness is almost here, so plenty of betting lines you should get. But with that, let's dive into the show. The Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, March 1st, which I should point out we're recording on a rare day. I don't know if we'll ever get an unwritten leap year recording session ever again, February 29th. So happy leap year. Happy birthday to all those who are turning like 5 or whatever when you're actually 20. Have you guys ever been a leap year?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that.
Yeah?
Former Astros outfielder Bly Madris' birthday is today. And the only reason I found out is because the TV broadcaster says, I don't usually do this, but this is one I won't forget. I won't have to do for another couple of years. Happy birthday,
Right.
Bly Madris. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Justin Bieber is also a leap year baby. I kind of remember that from when I was younger. I can look it up as well, Jack.
Okay, look it up. But
It sounds
I
like
knew
one of those schoolyard tales that you'd be told, but I don't know. That could be true.
tall tale.
Okay, it says
Well, yeah.
March 1st, but I remember there was something out there. This birthday's actually today.
You remember being lied to.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Happy leap year to everybody. I knew some kids like growing up there. Like I had like neighbors that were born on a leap year, and that was wild. They could have, I guess, also been lying. We were kids, but anyway, it is March 1st when you're listening to this, regardless. But hope everyone had a fun leap year. We got plenty to dive into, Kenny and Peyton, and we don't have to start with the misery that is men's basketball, because we had Eli Drinkwitz and his assistants doing their pressers ahead of Mizzou's spring camp. And we got some pretty fun nuggets, some pretty nothing too crazy at this point in the season. We're not going into spring camp with a quarterback battle like we were last year. So we won't have to speculate, when Mizzou posts social media clips of Brady Cook or Sam Horn and analyze who's better. Unfortunately, because Sam Horn is not going to see the field because he has Tommy John surgery. And that's where we'll start, because Drinkwitz did provide updates on Sam Horn, and then Isaac Thompson, the sophomore who has a lower leg injury. Obviously, Sam Horn, we knew, will not be playing for quite some time, recovering from Tommy John surgery. But Isaac Thompson, probably just expect to be a depth piece. Thoughts on that, and then just general. Nice to just see the Mizzou coaches back at the podium.
Yeah,
Lectern, not podium.
We got to hear from shout out Pete Bland. We got to hear from Kirby Moore, Corey Batoon, and Eric Link. So be prepared to not hear from them for another 6 months. But it was good. It's good that we're just kind of getting back into this now. Spring football, it's kind of just more about it's not really you don't get a ton solved in spring, but you get a few questions answered. One thing Mizzou's going to have answered is probably who is at least QB3 going to be. I know Drinkwitz got up and said Tommy Locke was an option at backup, but then Kirby Moore came up and said it was really going to be more Glover and Harold Blood Jr. getting the majority of the reps, or at least getting a ton of reps at the backup spot behind Brady Cook. So I wouldn't expect that, but again, we've harped on this before. QB2 is probably not on the roster right now. But yeah, good to get everything back going. It sucks for Thompson in particular. I mean, his career has just been riddled with injuries. He is out with the injury he suffered last summer. I don't know if they ever specifically said what it was, but that's a bummer for him because he has just not even had a chance to show what he could be because he's just been hurt or sick or whatever.
Yeah, and people that probably don't know Isaac Thompson. He was a 4-star in high school. He was a highly rated recruit, especially in the state of Missouri, coming over from the St. Louis area. When I was on the beat in 2022, Drinkwitz talked about getting him involved in special teams. He played in that Florida game that was kept pretty close. There were some unsung heroes in that Florida game, and Isaac Thompson was kind of one of them on the special teams unit. Ended up playing in that New Mexico State game. Got the red shirt there. Didn't play last year because of that injury. Still has 3 seasons left of eligibility according to Mizzou football. So hopefully he can kind of get back in there and find something that's secondary or in special teams whenever he's healthy. On the topic, though, of looking at spring football, winter workouts, and then you look at the summer, I always like to think it's the spring football and those winter workouts get a lot more hype to them because there's a game involved, and a lot of these fans get to go and watch it, and reporters do as well. There's a lot of thinning out about who's gonna play and who's not, and who's gonna be the true backups right now. And you're gonna see guys jump in the portal once that opens in April, and some guys will be joining the program from other schools like lower Power 5s or high, or I guess lower Power 4s now, and high Group of 5s that want a better opportunity at the next level. So right now, it's just kind of looking at that. I think the summer is where everything's going to pick up. Guys are going to start hitting each other a lot more often. You're going to find the guys that are really going to be competing for starting jobs this year. And of course, throughout the season, you get a freshman or sophomore that sneaks in there and ends up fighting for a roster spot and ends up taking it. But right now, I would put a lot more interest into the summer once those rosters are kind of set after the second transfer portal.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I feel like there's always someone that you get to the middle of the season, you're like, they looked so great in the spring game. What happened? Now they're not playing. And it's people put a little bit of weight on that. And there are going to be big questions to answer in the transfer portal. Of course, like Peyton kind of alluded to, being that third quarter or getting that second quarterback possibly with Aiden Glover, and Harold Blood being the only two, whether they go for a backup, who that is, that seems to be kind of the biggest thing. Some other nuggets. We had I guess they're releasing like players of the day during spring camp at each position group. So you had Ja'Marion Wayne, who I just think we should touch on as he's just had a wild saga. He's at corner, he's recruited as a receiver, he switched to safety, switched back to receiver. He's been on both sides of the ball, like a reverse Chris Abrams drain that then got reversed back. I don't really know how to describe his season, but I don't know. Any thoughts on him? Any thoughts on just the depth of this team, where it's at right now with some of the guys of and who maybe you're keeping an eye on?
Well, it's good he found the field on special teams because, it's hard to switch positions 3 times and start to find the field at that position group. I will say corner is kind of outside of QB2, maybe. I would say that's probably still the biggest need for them. If they can get someone out of the portal, I think that would be a pretty big advantage. hopefully, I mean, it's a good spot for Ja'Marion Wayne right now because it's probably the most likely position he would see the field other than special teams. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't. They just seem to kind of spin a wheel every time he shows up to a different start of practice.
Yeah, also a guy that was highly rated coming out of high school. He was a 4-star by 247, 3-star by Rivals, top 15 at Rivals, top 10 at 247. A guy that was highly sought out after at the wide receiver position, comes in and plays safety. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the 2022 season, Ja'Marion Wayne, the reason we found out he was playing wide receiver is during a hype up video for the bowl game. He was in the group with the wide receivers at practice, and my Jack Soble, who Jack mentioned earlier, we were watching that. We're like, what the hell? Like, is he back at wide receiver now? Go and ask Drinkwitz. And he says, yes, he is in fact playing wide receiver again. Now he's at the cornerback position, a position that's a little bit thin coming into this year, one that's going to need some depth. So definitely could see Ja'Marion Wayne see the field at some point this next season.
Only in football does that happen, where you have players like slip through the cracks like that, where you can find out from a hype video what position they're actually playing because the rosters are just so deep. That is fine. I don't remember that, but that is hilarious. That we learned that. But yeah, we'll see kind of who emerges as some depth pieces. That's a good thing to watch for in the spring. The other thing, guys, that we can take at least a stab at, a way too early maybe prediction at, is what Mizzou's going to look like on this offensive line. Obviously, especially with Javon Foster gone, some losses there. You're expecting Connor Tollison to retain his job at the center position. Brought in Caden Green, that's a big name. What would you guys predict right now to be the starting O line? Is there perhaps a position that is not, that starter is not on the roster? What are you guys thinking for kind of a way too early O line prediction?
I think the only spot that's kind of going to be up for grabs is left guard. I think the other four are set. I don't see any movement. I know Drinkwitz said like last year, and he said a ton of times, like, this can be all shuffled if they want, but it was such a good group last year. I wouldn't mess with the starters that do return. And then obviously Caden Green is going to be penciled in at left tackle. So Connor Tollison at center. Let's pray to God he's only worked on snapping this offseason. Right tackle, obviously going to be Armand Membu. Right guard, Cameron Johnson was like an underrated piece to end the year. He was fantastic once he got his second opportunity on that O-line after he was benched for Marcellus Johnson, but Marcellus Johnson got hurt. Left guard, I mean, you could see any number of guys. I remember Drinkwitz mentioned Javen Richardson, the transfer tackle. He's just a mountain of a human being. So maybe he's someone you look at for that position. I know Logan Reichert, if he's really like forcing the issue, like they got to just find a spot for him. He ideally eventually takes over at right tackle for Membu if Membu departs for the NFL. But maybe he gets in at left guard to start this year. I remember Curtis Piegler getting a little bit of hype and buzz last year, maybe the year before. So maybe he's someone that can push for that job. That's going to kind of be an open season. Maybe the starter isn't on the roster yet, but those are three that I just thought of right off the top of my head.
Where I kind of go with it is, just size. You lose a guy in Xavier Delgado who probably didn't get as many flowers as he should have. We talked about how he went like over a year and a half without getting a penalty in the SEC, and that's incredible because when you think about that offensive line, you don't really think about Xavier Delgado. You kind of just talk about Javon Foster and Armand Membu. I do like the Logan Reichert just because he's just the size. He's 360, 6'6". He's already a big guy. There's some other freshmen and sophomores that are barely touching 300 right now. Of course, that number will go up with time. Guys like Ryan Justice and looking more into these Brandon Solis, who is just under 300 at the moment. Those are two guys maybe you look down the future to be your bookend tackles. But for right now, I think you kind of just try to get Logan Reichert on that offensive line. He's a big body. They gave him a lot of praise last season as well. If they needed a guy to fill in at the guard or tackle position, they were going to look to Logan. And I can't talk about it enough. Was also just a highly touted recruit coming out of the KC area. 4-star, chose Mizzou over Oregon. There's a lot of people that were in on him, especially just contributing early, just because he is so developed for his age.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the open season is the best way to describe it. And yeah, like, there seems to be some decent contenders on here. I feel like Reichert's a good, I don't know. I don't really want to put a leading candidate on anybody because I have no insider info, but who knows? That's what the beauty of the transfer portal in this day and age is that someone could come in and maybe try and challenge for that job, but we'll see. We can't not talk about special teams in this podcast, especially me and Kenny, because for me, the biggest news I got was that Blake Craig is going to start at kicker, which I think was the obvious segue from Harrison Mevis, who's departing for the NFL. I'm excited selfishly. I can start my Craig the Leg narrative, start that nickname, put it on a t-shirt. That's an easy NIL situation for the freshman. He's a good kicker too, out of Kansas City. But then I think the more interesting battle and kind of situation is at punter as well, where you've got three guys, Peyton and Kenny, in contention for that job. A job that, while Luke Bauer was the hero with his arm in one game, you weren't sold on either him or Riley Williams last year.
Yeah, I'll let you guys take the bulk of this because you're the special teams fans. I am not a special teams fan. But I was surprised by Blake Craig just being like the unquestioned starter. Like, you normally don't even hear coaches say it if it's true. Like, you normally will say they'll have to earn it, something like that. But I guess they're just that confident in him. He's got big shoes to fill, figuratively and literally. So it's a lot of pressure, but we've seen young kicker. I mean, Mevis was a true freshman that really kind of just came in and dominated right away. So maybe Blake Craig getting a year to wait, maybe that'll help him. Punter wise, I don't buy that this is a competition. They got Orion Phillips like right away. He's, I believe, the only scholarship punter. I don't believe Saffris and Bauer are on scholarship. It's going to be his to lose. I especially don't buy that Luke Bauer, who could not beat Riley Williams by the end of the year, is really going to be able to take this job from him, unfortunately.
This continues to be an issue at the punter position, not really having a solidified guy. And you look at some of the other positions on special teams that Eric Link has just found guys that just stick. And talk about kicker, you talk about long snapper now with Brett LeBlanc, and Jack Kotz, who's right behind him, was also a pretty highly rated long snapper according to whatever websites you look at for that stuff. But Brett LeBlanc is going to hold down that position. I don't think we've ever seen a long snapper hold on to a scholarship, and he got one at the end of the year. I remember talking to him during the 2022 cycle, asking him if he was signing, and he was like, I'm not signing yet. I'm not on scholarship. I have to wait till February, but I'm going to be on campus early, which you don't see very often. You don't see that at all, really, to see it, especially just a long snapper. So him and Blake Craig are good buddies. They're very close. We saw him playing basketball once when we were still at Mizzou in the rec. So I'm pretty bullish about those two. For the punter position, of course, you look at trying to remember who's the punter who left for Stonehouse. The reason Stonehouse left for Syracuse is because he wasn't given a scholarship. 2 years later, they have a scholarship for Orion Phillips, and Stonehouse, I think, finished third team ACC. So I think if they kind of work that out a little bit better, maybe they kept Stonehouse because he does come from a long line of punters.
Yeah, it is weird. It's like we like to call it, tongue in cheek or whatever you want to call it, a link masterclass sometimes. And I don't know. I just hope it's like if Orion Phillips at punter just like locks that down and he's just the punter for the whole season. It was kind of frustrating watching them switch from Williams to Bauer, and it was just like a battle of mid for the whole year. And I don't know, Williams eventually got one out, but yeah, it was just bad. I don't know. I like Blake Craig. I think, you look at the kicker rankings and those like don't tell the story, but I mean, Peyton, you make a good point about true freshman kickers. I want to say Georgia's kicker this year was a true freshman, if I remember right. So, and he was great. So yeah. It's just about how well you can handle the pressure. So we'll see. Special teams. It's just the third. You can't ignore it. Peyton. It's the third phase of the game. Look at the Chargers team that missed playoffs a bunch of years ago.
Special teams, special players.
Yeah, well, it also takes a special coach, and I don't know if Mizzou has one. That year.
Yeah,
that's all. I'll leave it at.
Yeah, fair enough. We also got some We also got some fun comments from Drink. He said Brett Norfleet, our guy, we are members of the Norfleet, would win a dunk contest. I want to point this out because this comment made me think of this. I think Nebraska did a dunk contest during it, like a halftime of its basketball game, where it let the football players do a dunk contest. I don't want Mizzou to ever do that because
They've already done it. Not this
Have they?
year, but they
Well,
let their players dunk on the Mizzou practice.
There was a video that went around of Brady Cook dunking on the practice basketball court where we went for graduation. We actually got to step on the court that he dunked on.
Yeah, didn't Luther Burden throw one down? I feel like I remember that.
I don't like
but
that.
I'd have to go back and look.
I think especially with Mizzou's luck, you are begging for an injury. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, apparently he's the best dunker. And then the real funny thing that went kind of viral was that he was disappointed, Drinkwitz was, of Mizzou's NCAA 25 offensive rating, and then I think talked about playing the game on the Sega Genesis, which is just awesome.
He also was mad that Brady Cook had a 90 overall, or like he said that Brady Cook had a 90 overall and Luther Burden had one of the highest overall ratings. I'm pretty sure he just looked at one of the like 247 what we would rate these players and just thought they were the real ones because they have not released the actual ratings yet.
Also, I'm not gonna what is Drinkwitz now, like 40? Like he's pushing 40. I don't think he's like on Twitter realizing sometimes what he's looking at. He's a little bit older guy. He's 30 something, 30s.
He's 40.
He's 40. Yeah. So
40.
I mean, looking at that stuff, I'm not gonna knock on him too hard. He doesn't really know as much. He mentioned he played on Sega, so he didn't play on Xbox. He's not a part of our generation, so I'm not gonna knock on him too hard for that kind of stuff. It's like your grandpa makes a mistake. Okay, let's let it slide. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Drink. Kenny and I have been looking for a 5-stack on Rainbow Six Siege. If you're interested, hit us up.
Drinkwitz is at the point where like he's gonna want to play NCAA 14, and it's gonna be like that meme of the two guys in the studio when it's like me or my grandma when I plug in the HDMI cord and get her TV to work. That's like what Zeus players are gonna do for Drinkwitz. He's gonna be like, how'd you get this? Did you get this to work, you young whippersnappers? I don't know.
40, not 70, guys. He's not ancient.
He's old. No, Kenny just said he's not a part of our generation.
I mean, he's not just technically.
He's not. Like if you asked a 40-year-old to tell you like how an Xbox worked, they might not know.
But he knows how a TV.
Peyton, do an impression of Drink trying to boot up his Xbox.
Well, crud! This thing looks like a mini skyscraper. How do you turn this thing on? That's my only.
Good job.
You press the button that has the Xbox logo. Drink. Oh well, shoot! That's real. That's real swell. I don't know if he's ever said swell.
You think he's ever said swell? We've already been at the bottom. That's the speech he gives before he gets his Xbox working.
There's no fear. They can't kill us. We've already been at the bottom.
That's when the red ring of death comes on. Yeah, I don't know. So that's the comments you get right now at this point of the season. But yeah, we'll have plenty to dive into, some more stuff leaking out about spring practice and spring camp, who we're liking on those sort of fronts. But yeah, Mizzou getting started with spring practice, and it's just nice. It's just nice to have football back, especially when Mizzou men's basketball used to just be stuck in the mud, stuck at the bottom of the SEC. We'll segue to that.
I do want to say, I think we should probably mention, because Corey Batoon talked for the first time, and I mean, we haven't heard really anything from him. Just a couple quick things about him. He is running a 4.25. So there you go. I know there was a debate about that, but it's going to be ran out of a 4.25 mostly. He mentioned that they run a havoc defense that stresses negative plays, stopping the run. The way they're going to go about it is a little different, but I mean, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Otherwise, I mean, the maybe just from a schematic thing, the main thing to mention is the role of the Joker on the defense. I mean, you had certain things on Blake Baker's defense, like the star, that are going to be Captain Tack, but the Joker, it's a traditional defensive end on the field, but it uses a hybrid player on the other side, gives them flexibility and multiplicity. part of spring will be finding guys that are capable of doing that. This is from Gabe DeArmond, by the way. This part of the explanation on what the Joker is. So he didn't say much more than that, but it is a 4-2-5. It's going to look largely the same. There's just going to be a few Corey Batoon touch-ups to it. So we'll see if it works out.
Good
You
points.
mentioned
I forgot to.
the hybrid of that. Is it more like the jack position? Is that what he's trying to explain?
I think it is like more of a defensive end that can also like kind of shift out to linebacker. It is what he's kind of getting at there. I'd have to look more into it. The Athletic did a great breakdown on Kane Womack's defense, which is largely what this is. So I'd have to go back and read that, but I think that's what that is.
Who do you think would? Maybe that's putting you on the spot, and we might not know yet.
Darius Smith.
Would fill that?
Darius Smith, absolutely. I think that is who they're gonna. Especially, he's in quick hits. He's my jersey spoiler. We'll get more into that.
Okay, yeah, Peyton will touch on it, but yeah, good points to make about the defense. I forgot to bring that up, but yeah, I like the chaos. I like the Joker role. I think it's going to be, obviously it's not going to be the same as with Blake Baker, but it seems like it's going to have a lot of similar feel, especially with that formation. But yeah, we'll see what else emerges out of spring camp. I'm excited to touch on more storylines, especially when we get this basketball season done. Let's segue to that. Missouri. They dropped another one. They lost 83-74 to Florida. And I think the best place to start, shout out our friend Max Baker, who tweeted this and kind of alerted me to this fact. Missouri, the new trend now is to just kind of pick one player on the other team and let them have a field day. I'll find this Max tweet, but for Florida, it was Tyrese Samuel, who had 28 points and 10 rebounds. That was a season high, and it's now 4 straight games that Missouri has allowed a player to have a season high. Obviously, the Caliph Battle one is the one that stands out the most. I think it was a walk-on Tennessee they allowed, and I'm forgetting the last one. But Tyrese Samuel, 28 points. Missouri, Peyton, I'll turn to you first. I think you said it perfectly. Had almost everything break for them this game and still found a way to lose.
Yeah, up until that replay where Vanover was fouled and should have gone to the line. I mean, everything was really coming up Mizzou. I mean, they were able to get a pretty dang soft call on Walter Clayton Jr. to get him out of the game. And credit Dennis Gates. I mean, he made the right adjustment. I mean, there was one guard, Zion Poland, who was playing well for them at the time when Clayton went out. I mean, Dennis switched to his zone. It had Florida in hell for a lot of that half. This really felt a little different from these other teases that Mizzou had, where it really, like, Florida was just clueless on offense. But you always can feel the moment where they just lose a game. And it was when they ran a perfect set. They got Nick Honor wide open in the corner. He fires a 3, somehow just rims out. They were never the same team after that. Florida went back down. They nailed a couple threes. Then Tyrese Samuel just went to work. Connor Vanover played well for a lot of the second half. He was really the best player on the court a couple times for some stretches. But, I mean, down the stretch, he ran out of gas and got bullied. I mean, they held Florida to like a crazy low amount of points for like a good 8 minutes, and Florida still found a way to score 46 points in the second half. They're not going to win another game. I mean, that was they had everything go their way. We've said a lot of times, like, it feels like this team needs everything to go its way for them to win a game. They just had everything go their way, and they lost by 9. So there's not another win on the schedule. I mean, this is over.
I went through and looked at all the Mizzou Hoops final score captions. I thought this would make it on the sickos committee or whatever, because I just wanted to see like the draining of life come out of Mizzou. Final for Mizzou Arena. It's the first game against Georgia. Regroup, learn, and get ready for the next one. That's Kentucky. Final in overtime, South Carolina at home. Final from Alabama. And then we had 11 straight just finals. The Arkansas one had a period in it, so I made it its own. But that's just kind of like how I wanted to describe it. The life got drained out of this team. I was talking with Peyton last night about this. how do you just keep coming out every single week? What do you do in practice to get better? A lot of these guys like Noah Carter, Sean East, guys that are looking to go at the next level somewhere, if not the NBA, somewhere overseas, somewhat professional. Because I mean, we got to be honest, we don't think some of these guys are going to be NBA talents. And so, what do you do in these practices? What are you trying to get better at? And it just, I mean, if I was in this position, I'm not doing anything. This is the worst possible outcome for the season. Noah Carter last night had 0 points in 14 minutes. If it feels like there's maybe just one guy who kind of steps up and then the other guys that are giving you like consistent like 10s or stuff like that, 10s, 12s. It just depends on the player. Looking at Sean East and Tamar Bates, someone else just falls off. And that's what it's like with that. Talking about the 46 points, though, I will see the Tigers went, shot for shot, gave them 46 back. It's just you look at that first quarter or first half and you're down by 9 going into halftime. So that's really what the shot in the foot was. And the one thing that just probably continues to suck is when they go to the SEC studios at halftime, and it's just always the same thing. They're just kind of laughing, like, what did you see? Yeah, because it's the same thing every single Tuesday, every single Wednesday, every single Saturday. And at this point, I don't really have anything else to say. We can, at the end of the season, maybe we'll look ahead at. I don't think the schedules are out. They're not out for next year, but we'll say when we think the Tigers will win a game in 2024.
Yeah, that's damning. Mississippi Valley State won its first game of the season earlier this week, and now has more conference wins than Mizzou does, by the way. It's down to Pacific University, Cal Poly, DePaul, the Blue Demons in the Big East, and Mizzou are now the only teams winless still in conference play. So we'll see if the Tigers or the Peyton, give me the Cal Poly mascot.
Mustangs.
The Tigers or the Mustangs can get a win, and I'm talking about the Pacific Tigers, not the Missouri ones, because I agree, it's probably over in that department. Credit to Connor Vanover, for sure. 12 points, 6 rebounds. He was +10, the only positive box plus minus rating on the team. He looked great. It was the Connor Vanover we kind of all want to see. And in fact, I do want to give Drew King credit, because I was messaging him after this game, and he did DM me. He said, not sure if you watched tonight's game, but the way Connor played was what I thought it was going to look like all season. I know he came back on and was going through his right and wrong predictions. So that was the Connor Vanover Drew thought we were going to get all year. And so it was at least nice to see that. I'm sure nice for him in his final year of eligibility. But yeah, I mean, it's just the same old. You guys said it well. They just continue to find ways to lose no matter how good it looks. And I liked Peyton's take about how it felt different at times. Like it really felt like they were going to, kind of put it together, and just didn't manage it. So Peyton, you're changing your tune now, because when you and I talked, we did a pod, I think, without Kenny a couple of days or like a week or two ago. And you said this Ole Miss game on Saturday, you thought could be a win given where Ole Miss is. I know they've lost 3 straight. They've lost 6 of their last 7. Probably got knocked off the bubble last night by losing again. But you don't think a win's in the cards for the Tigers?
Nope. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, if you had told me going into the year you'd get like 12-6 performances from Connor Vanover in SEC play, I'd assume Mizzou was having a very good year and they'd be able to win most of those games. But I mean, I totally, like, you cannot, like, they got Walter Clayton Jr. He was their only good guard for almost the entirety of the game, besides Zion Pullen. They had one usable guard for the final 14 minutes, and Missouri never even took the lead. I mean, there's not a win. I don't even care to get into the specifics of Ole Miss. We've seen them once before. Mizzou had them on the ropes, and they found a way to lose. I have no confidence in them being able to get it done on Saturday.
Do I even release the spreadsheet I've been working on at the end of the year, or should I just act like it was never created?
Really sad that we've.
It's so tough. Yeah, it's a great spreadsheet. It does well.
I update it. We're probably only going to see 4 more games. So that's the minimum.
Let that be a future you problem. Maybe we can pray a win happens, and then you definitely release it. Because my promise still stands that if Mizzou wins a game, I will make a video. I will still do it for the people, because I know people miss the football videos, but they're not going to win. I'll dive into the specifics of Ole Miss briefly because I just watched them play last night. They played Alabama. This is a team that, like, Missouri can beat, but they have a lot of experience, which I think is going to help them on the road. They have Matthew Morrell and Alan Flanagan, who are they've been in the SEC forever. They're just both good guards, and then they have the tall guys, Musa Cisse and Jamarian Sharp. So Mizzou, if they do what they did against Ole Miss the last time out, they can win. But again, it feels like they're going to find a way to lose. Who do we think? That's a good prediction. I'll give you four names. Who do you pick one? Who do you think is going to have their season high this time for a fifth straight game? Matthew Morrell, he's their leading scorer. You're thinking Jamin Brakefield?
Yep.
All right. I'll go with that. Let me look up what his season high is this year.
Give the other names to Kenny.
It is 28. Is
oh,
his season
shoot.
high. So
That's a lot.
He has to break that. Kenny, I'll give you some guards. Jalen Murray, Alan Flanagan, Matthew Morrell. Those are the three leading scorers. The forward
Morrell's averaging 17 a game.
Yeah.
ESPN gives Mizzou a 48.2% chance of winning this game.
Matthew Morrell's season high is
20. Ambitious.
Let's go Murray.
Let's go Murray. 26. Jalen Murray. All right. Let's see. We'll see if you guys are right. We'll tweet if we're right. Jalen Murray's averaging 13 points a game. His season high is 26 against Mount St. Mary's. So
what is Alan Flanagan's season high? Because this feels like an Alan Flanagan
26.
just 4Q game. 26? Dude, how is Ole Miss not good? This is really impressive.
Alan Flanagan scored his career high. Oh no, Eastern Washington on November 10th. He had 29.
Okay, I'm not going with Alan.
But he had
Flanagan.
28. He had 28 last night against Alabama. But that's like the worst defense in the country. So they're all high 20s. So it will be a 30-point game if any of those guys are going to set their season high. It's a 30-point game. This is so sad. This is where we're at. All right. Let's move on, sadly. We're going to get to our interview. We had a great chat with Jack Soble. He's On3's Notre Dame beat writer. So if there's any Notre Dame fans that happen to be listening, go subscribe to him on that. But we talked with him about the Mizzou guys at the NFL Draft Combine because he was there doing some field reporting for us. So we'll kick it to ourselves talking to Jack Soble. Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest. He's been a friend of this program and a friend of ours for quite some time. He now covers Notre Dame, but you might remember him on the Mizzou beat when he covered it with Kenny last season for the Tigers, or I guess 2 seasons ago now, isn't it? It's Jack Soble. Yeah, it's been a minute now. You didn't get to cover the Cotton Bowl team, unfortunately. You had to go with the Mizzou, the bowl down in Tampa. So
Gasparilla.
Yeah, Gasparilla. I could not remember the name of the bowl game. I'll keep it a buck. But anyway, so we're delighted to have you back on. You're at the NFL Combine, and you're obviously covering Notre Dame primarily. But we've sent you on a mission, I guess, so to speak, and you've probably gone out of your own interest too. But to do some field reporting on some of the Mizzou guys, which we know you've gotten to talk to be at the podium with a couple of them. But first and foremost, I know you've been to the Combine. What is it? Is this your second time now?
Yeah, this is Combine number 2. I went in 2022, talking to Caleb Evans, now a Viking, and Tyler Beatty, who I think is a Bronco right now. Yeah, he's a Bronco. And yeah, it was a wild experience the first time you go, especially as a 20-year-old kid at that point. But now I'm covering Notre Dame, talking to a lot more guys. I mean, Notre Dame's got 8 guys there. Mizzou's got eight guys there, which is just crazy to see how far that program has come. As we'll get into it, a couple of Mizzou guys are getting a lot of buzz out here.
Definitely. I wanted to ask you about just like the Combine, because it's such a unique thing, which I think the NFL is making. They're like promoting it more now as like an event. But what's your favorite part about doing the Combine? I know there's lore about like, oh, all the scouts go to hang out at this one bar, or you get to go do this or that. What's the part of the Combine that maybe people don't get to experience unless they go as like a reporter or even fan or whatever?
Yeah, definitely hanging out at the bar with scouts. I didn't get a chance to go out last night. Just with some other Notre Dame beat responsibilities. The nice thing about the Mizzou beat when I went was that the Combine was the only thing I had to worry about. Now I have to keep checking my phone to see when the ACC will release its conference opponents for next year, because they're going to do that today. But No, it's definitely, it's crazy that everyone in the NFL world, just comes to one city. It's similar to the Super Bowl in that way. I think you get fewer current players, but every reporter who covers the team, every agent, every scout, coach, executive, all that good stuff is here. So you never really know who you walk past. But no, I mean I like catching up with the Mizzou guys who I covered a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Catching up with the Notre Dame guys who I covered this year, getting to ask them a lot of questions, kind of getting to hear what they've been up to, what they took away from their experience at their respective school, all that good stuff.
Definitely.
And let's like we touched on the Mizzou stuff earlier. We should touch on that. I mean, as we mentioned, there's 8 guys there. We know Darius Robinson has gotten a lot of buzz from the Senior Bowl. I mean, what has kind of the chatter been around some of the Mizzou guys there in Indy?
Yeah, it's been a lot of Darius Robinson, man. He is the talk. One of the guys people are talking about most. I think he was the lead of like Ian Rappaport's story from day one of the combine. I mean, a lot of people are talking about D-Rob. Based on the Senior Bowl he had, and it was interesting that when he was asked about that Senior Bowl, Darius was like, "Man, I did this my whole senior season. Just turn on the tape." He said, "Cut the tape." Multiple times. It kind of reminds me, and I was talking to Chris Krasinski, who now actually covers the Bears for Fox 32 Chicago, covered Mizzou the last couple of years when we were there. He's here too, and we agreed, and I think he wrote about this for Fox 32, that D-Rob's rise is kind of similar to Darnell Wright from the Bears from Tennessee last year. The Bears drafted him 10th overall. He's a guy who was not an unknown, but known as like a day 2 guy, mostly heading into the Senior Bowl, dominates the Senior Bowl, and then people look back at a senior year tape and they're like, shoot, this guy's a first round pick. With Darnell Wright is all the way up to the top 10. Remains to be seen how high D-Rob can go, but I mean, he was really impressive at that podium. And Pete Bland, if you're listening, it is a podium this time. They're actually standing on something, but no, he was really impressive up there. A big crowd. Definitely the biggest crowd. I mean, Rakestraw had a good amount of people there. Chris Abrams-Rain had some people there. I'm sure Cody Schrader, just the story and how big a deal he was through college football, will have a good amount of people. But D-Rob definitely had the biggest crowd at the podium for Mizzou.
Yeah, he's had so much buzz, and there was the Mel Kiper comment of he could climb up into the top 10. So I think that's a good comp if people want to look at a guy like Darnell Wright who rose last year. You got to be at the podium with Kat and Ennis Rakestraw. What was your impressions of what they kind of said, and what's kind of been the buzz around those two?
Yeah, no, Chris Abrams-Drain, he talked a little bit. I asked him about separating shoulder in that Cotton Bowl, what that was like and what it was like to win it. And he's like, yeah, I barely felt it because the adrenaline was just so much. Chris also talked about like where teams might see him. There are a few teams. I think the prevailing opinion is that Chris is going to be primarily an inside guy, just based on his size and quickness and ability to stick in man coverage. And I think people hear slot corner and think, oh, that's a downgrade. Slot corners are really, really valuable in the NFL today. With how prevalent 11 personnel is, all that good stuff. Chris said, he can play safety if teams need him to. I'm sure that wouldn't be ideal for him, just because safeties get paid less. But he can play all of secondary. I was talking about some of the toughest guys he had to tackle. He mentioned Brock Bowers, obviously. Was surprised he didn't shout out Darnell Washington from Georgia, because Darnell tried to hurdle him for some reason, gave him a concussion 2 years ago. But no, Chris was talking about how his transition to wide receiver helps him mirror routes and stuff like that. The interesting thing at the combine is, a lot of this stuff isn't really new information to like people who follow the college player. It's a lot of like
Right.
NFL reporters getting to learn about these guys for the first time. And honestly, like Chris was, he's a lot more talkative than I remember him being at Mizzou. Like he was always a really good guy, but he just spoke in 3-word sentences. But he was saying a lot more. He seemed really comfortable up there. Obviously very cheerful as always. Rakestraw I didn't get to for nearly as long, but the one thing he said that was interesting was like he said that he was really close to picking Alabama when he first committed to Mizzou, but then he kind of had a last minute change of heart. He's like, I want to go somewhere where they haven't had as much recent success, where I believe in the coaching staff, but he wanted to be one of the guys who brought a program from not a very good place to where it is now, and he really, despite not playing much in the second half of the last season, he really accomplished that goal, and it's cool to see these guys who like we grew up at Mizzou watching and covering for Kenny and I, getting so much recognition at the combine because they were so huge in Mizzou's rise from a perpetually 500 program to contender and probably a favorite to make the college playoff next year.
Yeah.
And just sticking with kind of the Mizzou theme, I mean, obviously the workouts, the big main event for everyone, 40-yard dashes and everything. They haven't kicked off yet, but
yep.
What did any of the guys you talked to, like from Mizzou or maybe even otherwise, like maybe just highlight something they're kind of hoping to test well in particular, or just show or anything like that?
Not really. I do think like they tend to the smart ones at least tend not to throw numbers out there, because then if you don't run that number, it's a bad look. I do think, and I was told by I believe it was one of Mizzou's former secondary coaches when I wrote a Abrams Drain feature, that like he's going to test and he's going to run in the 4.3s in the 40. He's a ridiculous athlete. Like when Chris came to Mizzou, it was like they knew he was an insane athlete. They just didn't really know where he would play. And then he came out for corner his sophomore year, and they were like, shoot, he's our best defensive back. So he's going to test very well. D-Rob, he's gonna test well. I think he's gonna run well for a 280-pound guy. The other thing with D-Rob I wanted to touch on is like he was talking at the combine. Like people asked him, where do you want to play, and he's like, I want to play everywhere. And everyone says like I want to play everywhere. Darius is the one guy who can actually back it up though. Like he played nose tackle early in his junior. He's played a lot of 3 technique. He played 5 technique, 7 technique, a wide 9 even. I mean, and he's got great film in all those spots. Like we saw that at the Senior Bowl. I'm not sure we'll see that quite as much as the combine. I think he'll test primarily as a defensive end. That when he had his Noble sweatshirt, it said DE on it. So that's where he'll test. But I think we're going to see some good things from Darius, and he's going to look good in shorts. I mean, he's one of the strongest people at this combine, which is always a plus.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, that's got to add to some of that draft buzz, though, right? Like you just said, you make a good point of just how versatile he is and what he can offer along the defensive line. It's got to be huge. I want to ask you about some of the guys, and you can just speculate, talk about covering these guys too. Some of the guys you didn't get to see, of course, there's a bunch at the combine: Tyron Hopper, J.C. Carlisle, Harrison Mevis, Cody Schrader, Javon Foster. Some great names for Mizzou lore.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on them translating to the next level, just being a draft guru?
Yeah, someone I'm interested in is Carlisle's actually, because his tape was kind of up and down. He had some really good moments. His 2021 tape, he had a few interceptions. 2022 is a better tackler. I wasn't watching quite as much in 2023, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he had a pretty good year.
Yes, after the LSU game, he was great.
Yeah. But his measurables are always going to be better than his tape. I mean, he's a big guy, and he's a fast mover. He's got good long speed. I'm really interested to see how he tests and if he could rise there. Schrader had a great Senior Bowl. I think that kind of lofted him from maybe he'll get drafted to he'll definitely get drafted. It probably won't be very high, but I think a team's going to want to use the pick on him in the 5th round or later. No, Hopper definitely could get drafted. Javon Foster's a guy a lot of people like. He had a good Senior Bowl as well. I have no idea if Mevis is going to get drafted or not. Kickers are such a crapshoot. Yeah. But Mizzou could have a 7, 8 if Mevis gets drafted, guys selected in this draft.
No doubt.
Definitely. And I mean, just kind of, what is maybe everyone goes there. The 40-yard dash gets all the buzz. I'm kind of, because we covered the Mizzou guys to death. I'm just kind of more of a fun one. What's kind of your favorite workout at the combine?
Big 3-cone guy. I love
Yes.
the ability. It's funny when you got a guy like DK Metcalf who's like a 4.3 guy in the 40 and gets drafted in the second round because of those 3 goddamn cones. But that actually I think is going to be the biggest thing for Robinson. Like if he's got a good 3-cone, like the biggest question about him is like, can he bend the edge like an NFL defensive end? Because he had some good reps off the edge, but it was mostly like get by guys with that swim move. Bull rushing guys. He didn't really show that bend, which makes sense. I mean, he's a defensive tackle by trade, or at least he was until last year. But the 3-cone is the big drill that guys look at for defensive ends. Like, can they bend the edge? And that's going to be huge for him.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to let you harken back to your coverage days, because I know Kenny, his claim to fame, or we give him this claim to fame for him, is the Darius Robinson picture after the Gasparilla Bowl when he says this could be his last game, and now it's come back and been stronger. What's your favorite moment covering some of these guys that are up for the combine they can remember, whether it's them at the lectern, not podium at Mizzou, or just covering them in general? Anything you've done?
And I mean, I've written things about all these guys. I wrote a feature on a smaller feature on Robin, because people forget, like, he got benched early in his junior year. Like, he was the second string defensive tackle, but behind Jay Jernigan and Christian Williams. And then he came back at a great finish, and we all know how last year turned out. I obviously enjoyed covering all these guys. Best singular moment. This was back in like the Maneater days. With Beavis and these guys freshman year. This was after I think the Arkansas game, when Beavis hit that game-winning field goal, and Drink repeatedly said, like, was looking over outside the lectern, and he's like, sees Mevis, and he's like, there, hey Harrison, don't drink the Kool-Aid, like as in like get a big head, and something like that. And Mevis comes up next, and I say, like, hey Harrison, your coach repeatedly said, like, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Are you drinking the Kool-Aid? And he smiles and goes, I'm drinking some Kool-Aid tonight. And bear in mind, Harrison's a freshman at the time. The guy is 18, 19 years old.
Oh, yikes.
It was
it's
very
Kool-Aid,
funny.
Soble. You can have Kool-Aid when you're anytime.
No, you definitely can have Kool-Aid at that age. But it was funny. These guys were by and large really good to cover. Like Darius, is one of the nicest guys I've ever talked to. Very smart guy too. And as you guys all know how funny Ennis is. Like, he's chronically online. And not even in a bad way either. Like he just likes Twitter a lot. But I'm really excited to see them get drafted. Like I said, like it's crazy that like I was on the recruiting beat when like Carlisle and Rakestraw and Abrams Drain and Mevis when they signed, and seeing these guys now get drafted after covering their freshman years, covering their junior years. It's really cool to see.
We're getting old, Soble. We're getting old.
We are getting very old.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Ennis Rakestraw, does he still? I'm sure you didn't ask him this at the time, nor will you probably ever be able to. But I remember a press conference he showed up to. I think it was when you and Kenny were on the beat, along with Kyle Pinnell, by the way. We should shout him out.
Of course.
He came to the lectern. You're welcome, Pete Bland. In a Music City Bowl hoodie or shirt.
I do remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if he still has that, and if he's willing to sell that?
I'm sure his DMs are open on Twitter. You can try that.
that was
the
my only question there.
chronically merch collecting.
Yeah.
Just wants all the Mizzou merch.
That is one of the most sick and depraved things I've ever heard anyone ask for. But you can see if he's got it.
Is he selling it? So I want to hear if you mentioned, like, I don't remember if we had started recording when you said this, but like Darius Robinson, I know you're a Bears guy. You would love if the Bears traded down if he could end up
Yep.
on there. What teams would you maybe like to see some of these guys on? You don't have to do all of them, but whether it's the Bears or somewhere you're just like, ooh, I could see him in a Texans uniform or a Dolphins uniform or fit in that system, whatever.
I would love to see D-Rob go to the Ravens. I know the popular destination for him is the Lions. Because he's from the Detroit area, the draft's in Detroit. He's a hometown guy. It would be a great story. I like Baltimore for him because there's a good chance they're going to have to let Justin Madubuike walk. They're not too fond of paying defensive linemen, but they're really good at drafting them. And I think Mike McDonald's gone, but John Harbaugh is really good at hiring defensive coordinators. I forget who they hired, but he's going to get someone in there who can use him to the best of his abilities. They have a great secondary. He'll have a chance to get to the quarterback there. I would love him in Baltimore. I would love Ennis. Let me think. Ennis or Chris Abrams during at the back end of the first round. I've seen Ennis get mocked to like Philadelphia, which I think would be good for him. They need a corner. Obviously, a good team. When you're in the back end of the first round, unless like Arizona, who has the Texans pick drafts, you're gonna go to a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of the situation where Ennis and D-Rob are right now. Who else?
Bears kicker?
No, they got a guy. Got a guy.
Peyton shook his head no. Yeah, no, those are some good shouts.
Yeah,
I mean, we all
want him on our
team.
Really passionate about it is D-Rob to the Ravens. I think that would be a great spot for him.
Yeah,
I think I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that they are planning to tag Madubuike if they don't get a deal one with him. Yeah, at least that's what I believe Ian Rappaport tweeted. But that is I do like your logic behind that pick.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question. I know Peyton has one more. Sticking on the draft subject, you and Peyton are both Bears fans. Do you want Caleb Williams or the Bears to keep Fields?
I would like Caleb Williams, yeah.
Okay. You agree on that.
We've had discussions about this. So
we've had this discussion over the past few months. We think Bears Twitter is a complete embarrassment at the moment.
It is. Well, I don't even think you can take at the moment out, dude. It's the biggest cesspool of idiots I've seen. It's really bad. It's stupid. I don't even bother engaging with half of it.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. But no, they are in all likelihood going to draft Caleb Williams. And they're going to trade Fields for a second or a third round pick, probably by the end of next week. This whole ordeal will be over.
Is there anyone? I have one more that popped in, Peyton. Sorry, before you go. Is there anyone cool you've got to see walking around, whether it's like a player or an analyst or a scout? Anyone notable you've rubbed elbows with?
No, not as much as last time. Maybe it's because I wasn't paying close enough attention yesterday because I was on 2 hours of sleep.
Sure.
But by the opposite effect today, I slept in, so I haven't really had much time to walk around. But no, none that I could think of. I mean, I walked past Andrew Siciliano a few times. Does he count?
Sure, I'd count.
Yeah, no, he's like my height. I didn't think I knew this.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow, they must.
Yeah.
They did some camera trickery with him on NFL Red Zone
angles. It's all about angles.
Yeah.
Why do you think Sobel's holding his computer the way he is? And I'm just kidding.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. The reason you guys are hearing, for the viewers that don't know, that I'm so surprised is that Soble is short, folks. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Soble, but Soble is not the tallest individual. But Soble, I got one more fun one for you. Can you rank the freshman year sweetmates you had?
Can I rank the freshman year sweetmates?
Yes. For those that don't know, we're referencing friends of the show, Abe Fanning, Justin Bear, who is banned from the show, by the way, because he's too good at
It's true.
Pick. And me, Peyton Haverman. So,
well, first of all, I'm ranking myself dead last. I think that's not even a debate. Yeah. And then a tie for first between Justin Bear and Abe Fanning, and Peyton. You
damn
silver medal.
was hoping for a first gold, but I guess not.
No, we had a good run freshman year, and I very much enjoyed living with you, Peyton.
You're technically
Same-
third
same to you,
because he had a
Soble.
two-way tie for first. So
That's fine.
that
We
makes
had
you
orderly
third.
shelves in our bathroom, and we had a pretty good system. I think it worked out.
Yeah.
So.
No, it worked out.
It's good that it was condensed. He is Jack Soble. If you're a Notre Dame fan listening to this, you should go subscribe to him. What is it? Blue Gold Nation? Is it the
Blueandgold.com.
Jesus,
And if you're
blueandgold.com.
a magazine enthusiast, Blue and Gold Illustrated.
There you go. Soble does great work for there if you're a Notre Dame fan. We'll force him to come back on and talk about Mizzou as long as he's willing to come on. Soble, thank you so much. Enjoy the combine. If you see Mel Kiper, Ian Rappaport, tell him to come on the show for us.
Will do. I'll pass that along.
All right. Thanks, Soble. Okay, quick hits time. Gonna finish out the show with our jerseys of the week. Starting off quick hits. Kenneth, what's your jersey of the week?
My jersey of the week goes to Mizzou basketball assistant coach C.Y. Young, who officially had his number retired by Georgia Southern. I know I was kind of doing a deep dive to try to find a photo of him at Georgia Southern in that jersey. I ended up getting the number wrong. It was 12. I believe before I said it was 14. So I was only 2 digits off. So don't knock on me too hard. But it feels like a lot of these assistants and coaches just got to go out there and kind of do some things this past week. And we saw Dennis Gates was on the recruiting trail. So maybe CY stopped by Georgia Southern, got to see his jersey hung up in the rafters. I will say I'm not a big fan of how it looks. It looks like they just went to a print shop and put it up there. I feel like it could have been a lot cooler if they had a stitched one. But, I mean, I don't know how much funding Georgia Southern has for that kind of stuff. But still really cool for CY Young.
Yeah, no, happy for him. There's not a ton to celebrate in this season of Mizzou basketball, but for him, I'm sure that's probably like one of the coolest things that's ever happened to him. So good for CY.
Good for CY. What's your jersey, Peyton of the week? I'm gonna say jersey of the jersey of the week, Peyton. What's your Peyton of the week jersey?
My jersey is Darius Smith, the transfer from Georgia. He earned he just, I guess, was a monster at practice yesterday. He won D lineman of the day, he won defensive player of the day, and he was the first spring number earned, number 19. I mean, Kenny can probably touch on it, like the spring number tradition. They've done that a whole ton. I remember there was a thing in Drinkwitz's first year where Damon Hazelton didn't get his, I swear, until like the week before the season started. That wound up being a well-founded fear. He was not very good. But Darius Smith, I mean, he got lost in the shuffle just a bit just because Mizzou brought in so many good transfers. But this is a guy that, I mean, just kind of it was a numbers game at Georgia. Georgia, if you didn't know, is pretty damn good at football. They recruit really damn well. He just kind of got recruited over, but Georgia fans and coaches alike, I mean, they were raving about how good an athlete he is. Evidently, it's showing early in practice. That's got to be a really encouraging sign for Mizzou. I mean, especially because you're losing Darius Robinson. You got a new DC coming in who's got that new joker position. That, if I'm not mistaken, I will go back and read about this, and if I'm wrong, I will correct myself on Sunday. But that joker, I mean, they kind of have a guy that's, like Kenny was asking, you play DN, but you can also shift back and play maybe a little bit of outside linebacker. That's something that you would want a really good athlete to do. Darius Smith has that athleticism. Seems like early on he is really, really earning his stripes.
You talk about earning the number. Back when Luther Burden was a freshman, they tried to make it not a big deal whatsoever when Luther came out to the first practice in front of media with the number 3 on. Drink was just like he earned it, and he didn't really want to get into it. Peyton, though, I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't think he was the first technically. I think some of the other transfers already have him. Nate Knoll is already listed with a number, and so is Marcus Carroll. Marcus Carroll.
I just read
Nate
the
Knoll.
tweet. You could be right.
Nate Knoll is 8, which Nate Pete was 8, so the handing down the number 8 to the Nates. But it looks like a couple other guys. One more thing I'll throw out there about the numbers. This is for Jack. Marquise Johnson is now number 2.
Oh, I kind of like
Philip
that.
Roche is 0, along with Josh Manning.
Number 2 feels like a fast number. I don't mind
I don't
that.
know. He can't be one because obviously
No.
Keel Weiss is one, but he
Yeah.
feels like a number one. Number two is also really good.
I kind of because
Marvin
now it's
Burks
one.
is number one on defense now as well.
Oh, okay. I see
Well,
what
now
I think. Just going back to the number thing, I think you're correct, Kenny, that they already had given out those numbers because this one just says first spring number earned. So I assume that means in practice for guys that didn't have them already. So
well, now it's it'll be Weiss, Johnson, and Burden are 1, 2, 3. Then that's kind of some continuity there.
Do we have a number
Saving
4 that's not Trevez Johnson? Because then obviously Cooper is
Marcus
5.
Carroll.
Carroll's
Marcus
4.
Carroll. Okay.
There you go. They're
So.
getting the continuity in the offense, and then Brett Norfleet's just big 87. But 87 is a tight end number, so I don't hate that at all.
It's a hard number. That's
Nice.
a good number.
Marquise Johnson's so good. All right, my jersey of the week. I'm this is inspired from a tweet that I saw from Peyton. Yeah, Peyton's upset. You can unmute your mic for this, Peyton. You can unmute your mic. I'm going Evan Gilliard. If you don't know who Evan Gilliard is, you might not have been on campus when Mizzou played UMKC and lost by about 20 points. Because Evan Gilliard, who is like 5'5", scored 28. Peyton tweeted, it was a quote tweet. There was something going around that was like, quote tweet this with your like worst or most painful sports memory. And it was just kind of blowing up on Mizzou Twitter, people posting just different photos or different screenshots of scores. I saw everything from like, there was some Kansas games in there. Peyton tweeted the UMKC game. I know I tweeted the Charleston Southern game from 2019 for basketball, but I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up on the show too, because it seemed to be enveloping Mizzou Twitter. And Evan Gilliard was my jersey. He was like 5'5", torch Mizzou. Now plays for the Windy City Bulls, by the way, in the G League. So he's a good player.
Yeah, it was what is the worst game you've attended in person, and that was pretty far and away, I think, the worst one, just in terms of most embarrassing that I've been at. Because I remember Gilliard just torched Mizzou because like he just wanted to dribble to his right every single play. I remember right or left. I think it was right because it was effortless once if he got to his spot. And Amari Davis and Boogie Coleman just kept letting him do it. Like they just didn't do anything to stop him. I remember the game before that. That was the second game of the year, by the way, that they lost to UMKC by double digits. The game before that was the Chippewas from Central Michigan.
Yes.
And I remember the first half of that game was a lot of fun. The second half was not very fun. And then that game kind of solidified, this team's really bad. Great. That team would still probably beat the current iteration of Mizzou, but that was the worst game I have ever been to.
The other one that popped into my head, and Kenny, I don't know if you have a pick for this, was in football, just the Kentucky game from 2 seasons ago with the punt situation. That one was just personal for me because I wasn't going to go to that game because I had to do work, and then I decided to slack off my work and went to it, watched it. It ended horribly, and then I sprinted back and had to like walk super angrily back to my apartment to go then have to do work. So I was just that one just made me so upset. It was such a BS, literally caused a rule change. So I don't know. Kenny, do you have a least favorite game?
Peyton, you weren't even there for that, were you? When that punt happened, you already left.
Kentucky?
I left because I was pretty upset early on in that game. That was not my least favorite football game, though. It was the
my least favorite game. I didn't even stay the full time for this one, but when Kansas City, UMKC came to play Mizzou 2 years ago, a kid from my high school was on that UMKC team and beat Mizzou like easily. It was just an easy win for UMKC, and I didn't even get to stay the whole time, and it still was one of my least favorite ones.
So yours is also the UMK. It's still the So the Evan Gilliard game is just plagued. He haunts Mizzou alums from 2021. That's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought we'd relive that misery just because it was kind of blowing up on Mizzou Twitter. But next up, Mr. East.
I like no capping. He's the main bird.
Shawnee's member of the week, Kenny.
My shiniest main bird of the week goes to the Cardinals for signing 3-time All-Star Brandon Crawford. He's going to St. Louis now. Not weird at all. Maybe a little bit weird because it plays into that fetish and the collection that the Cardinals are having of washed up guys or just names that they could have on their team. The Royals are doing a similar thing, but I still have the Royals winning the World Series. A little bit different there. Of course, Brandon Crawford's not going to start. Mason Wynn he's the future at the shortstop position for the Cardinals. They just needed a veteran behind him, a veteran on the bench, and they went with Brandon Crawford. It's not a bad signing whatsoever, but welcome to St. Louis, Brandon Crawford.
Yeah, we're almost back at the Cardinals suck segment.
The retirement birds, man. There's like 50. You could start an old folks home in St. Louis with these players. It's ridiculous.
It is. What's your dirty bird of the week, Peyton? I thought you were going to segue yourself.
No, I thought you had some to add. My main bird is the team I bet on. UNCW, the Seahawks. They lost in triple overtime to the Campbell Fighting Camels after I picked them to cover by 8. They're still my main birds because they let Campbell fans storm the court. I don't know why unless this is just a rivalry I didn't know about. UNCW had beaten Campbell in every game they'd played against the Fighting Camels since 2019. I don't think a 5-year drought warrants a court storming. I'm going to be totally transparent.
Okay, Jay Billis.
I don't know. I'm not saying. But, okay, this is where, Jay Billis and I somewhat agree. Too many people court storm. You should not, I remember Arkansas was a favorite over, I don't even remember the game last year, but they court stormed. They were 24 and the team that came in was 8. That was ridiculous. Court storming gets overused, but no, it shouldn't be banned.
Do you remember the Wednesday game last year for Arkansas when they came to play Mizzou? Arkansas was 24th at the time. Mizzou wasn't ranked. Mizzou wins that game. Mizzou was favored. In my mind, the whole time, I'm like, I'm not court storming. I'm not going to make Arkansas think that this is Mizzou's Super Bowl by doing that. There's levels to it that you have to understand. You cannot stoop so low and just rush the court.
Use court storming for a cool occasion, not a random Wednesday win.
I completely agree. I mean, UNC Wilmington were they in first place in their conference? Maybe that was why.
It doesn't matter. It's UNC Wilmington.
I do agree that it should be if you're a ranked team and beating a better ranked team, you should not court storm. That is ridiculous. Yeah, that's just a little brother behavior. I don't know. I think you just need to keep them on the court and have them all cited for trespassing and then thrown in Billis jail. No, that statement was ridiculous. He's way too. Court storming needs to stay. It needs to stay. My main bird of the week. I'm giving it to we have a soccer team, for those who don't know, our favorite football club in Europe, Bayer Leverkusen. I'm giving it to their coach Xabi Alonso. I've been talking to Kenny a lot about this off air. We did this, kind of just as a fun bit, let's have a soccer team. Kenny will get a random jersey. And then Bayer Leverkusen, the German team that we ended up picking, has had the greatest run of winning in German soccer history. They've gone 33 games without a loss. It's the longest record ever. And Xabi Alonso is their coach and he's overseeing it. My connection to a bird is this was tweeted by a company called Squawka Football, and that's a sound a bird makes. So that's my connection to a bird. He's also going to be Liverpool's coach after the year, and their mascot's a bird. So tough for
if that happens, we're no longer friends.
Yeah, that is an agreement.
If that happens.
Yeah.
Also, are you going to get in on this with us, Jack? If Mizzou wins the SEC tournament, Peyton and I are going to get the pawn tattoo that Tamar Bates has, looking in the mirror and seeing the king on our thighs. So are you jumping in with us on that?
Yes, I'll join you. I'll match. We'll go 3 for 3 on that.
You'll do 2?
Yeah. No, I won't do 2.
That's what matching is. You're going to do 2.
No, that's doubling. I'm matching.
I think he's going to get one on each leg, Peyton, is what I'm hearing. Maybe you'll get one that's looking and it's a queen.
Actually, yeah. Well. You know what? I will match. If Mizzou wins the SEC tournament, I'll get 2 matching pawns equidistant on my thighs, and I'll give you both $1,000.
All right.
Do we have a deal?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. It would be really worth getting a tattoo I'll never see if Mizzou somehow wins the SEC tournament.
Yeah. I'd get the tattoo. Yeah, fair enough. All right, I'm in for $2,000 and 2 tattoos. Peyton, what's the best thing you learned this week?
Best thing I learned this week, I didn't really learn a whole lot. I just learned that future Bears quarterback Caleb Williams, he dispelled the rumors that he wouldn't play in Chicago by citing the fact that he likes Michael Jordan and Walter Payton. Walter Payton, of course, where I take my namesake from. So Caleb Williams, we're happy to have you. We're super excited to get this going. This will be a long 4-year relationship.
Peyton, did you see when Patrick Kane came back? Michael Jordan wasn't there, but he had a video that they played at the arena, and the video started with, "Hi, I'm Michael Jordan."
I did not see the hype video. I saw like they did a bunch of stuff for Patrick Kane. I did not see that. That's really cool. I don't know why he needed to clarify that. I think I could spot Michael Jordan like in a sea of people. I would be like, that's Michael Jordan right there. Like he's very, very Michael Jordan looking. So that's cool.
I heard after the that Patrick Kane scored a game winner, and then everyone in Chicago gave him a standing ovation, even though it was
He
for
did. It
the
was
Red
an
Wings.
OT. Yeah.
Is that loser behavior? Because it's not your team.
The Blackhawks are the worst team in hockey this year. So no, it's
right.
whatever.
All right, fair. Kenny, what'd you learn?
Best thing I learned this week. If you guys didn't notice, the coaches were wearing white number 40 shirts during practice this past week, and that was to honor Norris Stevenson, who was the first Black player in school history. I think it's a good gesture to close out Black History Month. I mean, you break barriers. You talk about all different sports, and Norris Stevenson broke that barrier and was the first Black football player in Mizzou history. Very cool that they're still honoring him to this day. I think it would be really cool as well, maybe down the line, that they have like a number 40 patch for someone who is that minority leader on the team as well. Maybe that's something they think about, or even like there isn't much like history or tradition with like handing down numbers, but the number 40 handed down to someone of that caliber who's a leader like that would be very cool in my opinion.
Yeah, I like the patch idea that. Yeah, to like it can turn it into more of a tradition thing, and yeah, it can be a leadership example. That's a good idea. The best thing I learned this week, I'm also sticking in just the narrative of I guess positivity and a more real topic. But I saw this last night. It was a tweet from a New Mexico Lobos player who, it's a long tweet. His name is Braden Applehans, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He's actually from Kansas City originally, but just had a long post on Twitter. I guess he hadn't been playing for New Mexico, had been dealing with a bunch of like mental health stuff. And I just, I thought it was a good post. He was very open about it, kind of shared his story about that. And it's a very important thing for sports. So I thought I'd acknowledge it. That's something, we as sports fans, sometimes see these players kind of just as like robots who play the game. But, he described it as like, I realized I had kind of an invisible injury that I needed to take care of. And he's like, I'm now in a better place. So, everyone's a real person too with feelings. So as much as, we watch them and put a lot of investment into them on TV and stuff, I just thought this was pretty cool. And hopefully he gets a chance to at least be on the sideline and enjoy his team being in the NCAA tournament, because New Mexico is very good on that note. But thought I'd acknowledge that. Mental health is important. Take care of yourselves, people.
He did say he'd be back in a Lobos jersey next year. So.
Mm-hmm.
I do like a lot of the positive replies as well. You'll get some assholes and jerk offs that get in there and say stupid stuff, but this is nice that a lot of the people are having his back and telling him it's brave of him to even like write this and tell people about it and make a difference for others that could be in the same situation as him as a student athlete.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I would hope if this is a Mizzou player, like they would feel the comfortability of the fan base to like, be open and vulnerable about that kind of thing. But good for Braden. And yeah, I think he's only like a sophomore, so he'll be back. Hope to see him on the court for Lobos. And he's in Kansas City where he reps the state. So, who knows what he could kick on and do. On that note, Peyton.
Yes. Let's end on a joke. Let's end on a dubious query. Hey guys. What should you do if you meet a giant? Fee, fi, fo, fum, giant. Give
San
you a hint.
Francisco or New York?
you think they hang out? No, like, I'll give you a hint. How would you communicate with the Giants?
Through a megaphone.
I'd climb a beanstalk.
Oh my goodness.
No, I would climb the beanstalk.
What do either of those have to do with communicating? You use big words.
That's it? Kenny, guess what? I have a bonus joke I've been saving just for when you've been back on the show, just for you. I told
Go
this to
for it,
Peyton.
yeah.
It did not go very well in the focus group that is Peyton, so we'll see how it goes with you. But I heard this the other day. What do you call a happy transformer?
I don't know.
Optimistic Prime.
Peyton, you want to close out the show for us?
That's going to do it
Stop
for this
it.
episode of The Unwritten Rule. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back on Sunday. Hopefully,
Monday.
not even gonna say hopefully.
Monday.
Sorry,
Jesus,
Monday.
there's a
We
reason why
record
you don't
on
do this.
Sunday. We record on Sunday, but we'll be back for you guys on Monday unless you somehow hack into our room and watch us record. But we'll be back on Monday. As always, we're sponsored by Bet Online, so go check them out for all your sports wagering needs. This has been The Unwritten Rule. I'm Peyton Haberman.